This meeting of the Oak Park City Council is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk Norris, would you call the roll?
Mayor McClellan?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns? Councilmember Radner? Councilmember Edgar?
Here.
Councilmember Whitehead?
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum. Next, please add one item to your agenda at 11F. It is to approve letters of agreement for POLC, POAM, TPOAM contract changes. So we need the approval for the amended agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda, I would like to remove item 5F for separate consideration. The rest of the items are considered approved without discussion. City Council meeting minutes for February 5th. Special Council meeting minutes for the same date. Municipal service fee schedule additions. Request to approve final payment application number 4 for the 2021-22 miscellaneous concrete project M727 to Mattioli Cement Company of Fenton, Michigan for $5,000. E, request to approve final payment application number 4 for the 2022-23 concrete project to Mattioli Cement Company for $5,000. Skipping F. G, resolution in support of Oak Park joining the Clinton River Watershed Council's Water Towns Initiative. H, Arts and Cultural Diversity Commission meeting minutes for September 14th, November 9th, December 14th, and January 11th. And finally, licenses, new and renewals submitted for February. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Please look at item F, and would our city engineer, Kara Grissomer, please come up to discuss the request to approve payment application number 3 and change order number 1 for the 9-mile connector park project. M746 to DMC Consultants of Detroit, Michigan for $185,184.45 and $1,650 respectively.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city manager. We had a positive change order for this project because the 3 bike loops were not included in the original posting. So we had to add the bike loops in order to make sure that we met the requirements for the DNR grant.
Okay. See, I went and took pictures of the park. It looks lovely. The 3 little gizmos that little kids are supposed to play with aren't working yet, right?
There may still be spacers in there. It's because it was winter when they put it in. They may have left that. It's not 100% complete.
It's not finished yet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I won't worry about that. A motion to approve this request.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Do we need a roll call?
Sure. Mayor, Councilmember Edgar?
Yes.
Mayor McClellan?
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you so much. I don't see visiting elected officials today, but we do have a letter, correct? That's coming up. Okay. Item 7, special recognition and presentations. There is an annual audit presentation, City of Oak Park Finance Department. and another one from Reeman Robson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So happy to be here tonight. This is my favorite time of the year. Eric said no more than 2 hours for my presentation, so I will do my bestest. But
That was minutes, Carl, just so, okay.
Us finance people, we get excited about these little things here.
Yes.
So, but it's my privilege to be before you tonight to talk about the annual audit that ended June 30, 2023. So we're doing a little different this year. Usually the auditors stand up here, but we don't want them to have all the glory because this wonderful 182-page document, our annual audit, is all the responsibility of finance and obviously our department heads and such. Really, their only mission is to report back to you on, is this accurate, is it fairly presented, et cetera. The rest of it is really the responsibility of finance and the rest of the city. So finance is going to take this opportunity and go through some of it. I've put a half dozen or dozen, who knows how many slides I put together, but I put some slides together that I want to talk through really on the highlights. And then afterwards, I'll have the auditor come up. That is Daniel Clark from Reeman. He is the partner, the principal in charge of the audit, and he will talk about that opinion, the actual opinion on the financial statement, as well as any findings or thoughts that he might have had regarding our operations. Again, that's the important part, why you have an independent auditor to report back to you on how finance and everybody else at the city is doing. So with that, let me start with the first graph. So our general operating fund, remember this is the general operating fund of the city. Police, fire, assessing, finance, attorneys, you name it, they're pretty much under the general operating fund. And you can see there I've got the little box on the very bottom there. After all our amendments, after the entire fiscal year, our amended budget, we were hoping to be about 40,000 to the good. We ended 2,000 to the good. So pretty much right exactly where we wanted to be. And there's actually some better news buried in there. That I'll get into in a little bit. But bottom line is our fund balance increased by that 2,000 to a little over $4.9 million. The other item I have highlighted there, so State Budget Act says you should not be $1 over your budgets. This was kind of on purpose. So that highlight there is we actually exceeded our budget in one line item there. And the reason we exceeded our budget there was at the end of the year, any surplus we had in all of our departments, we took that money and transferred it over to our new Parks and Rec Capital Improvement Fund to set it aside to fund our capital projects, our Parks Master Plan, our hub that we're setting money aside, et cetera. So we had more money than we anticipated, but we wanted to make sure it got over there and was segregated. So that's why that one was in fact over budget. But, and then the other piece of that was our courts. Our courts revenue has been falling short, so we have had to contribute a little more than we've had to historically. So we were about, I think it was $170,000 over budget. We had to transfer more to them once the numbers all shook out. So, but we'll get into that a little bit. So that's that other one there. But all in all, we're just under 20% in our fund balance in the general fund, which again is outstanding news. The next one, again, some key revenues here. This is our general fund, the ones I've highlighted there. So federal grants, we had about $1.1 million, which is the second installment of the ARPA monies that we received. And in addition to that, there was about $200,000 for the body cams grant that we had. The body cams grant was about $500,000, but we hadn't spent it all. I think it was $500,000 or $600,000, somewhere in that range. But we hadn't spent it all right at year end. So that's why you can see there it's negative 250. We were a little short on the revenues. That's just a matter of timing. We got that 253,000 in the current fiscal year. Fines and forfeitures, I touched on that just a minute ago. We originally thought, or historically, we would have received $1.3 million from the court. You can see our original budget there. We received just under 1.1. So our revenues fell $200,000 shy of what we are used to getting, as well as our contribution to them then had to go up almost $200,000 to subsidize it. So the general fund subsidy for the year was close to $700,000 for last year. So we've met with the courts, and they're continuing to do what they can to help with that. It doesn't help too our staffing at the police department. If that staffing level increases, in theory, our ticket revenue, number of tickets written should increase as well. And lastly, good news on the investment side. Interest rates went up in the last 12 to 18 months or so, from literally almost nothing to 5.5%, I think is what we were getting at the end of the fiscal year. So that has resulted in increased interest revenue, interest in investment revenue. So on the treasury side of things, we've been investing heavily and getting a great return on our investments there. So you can see we almost doubled what we originally thought we were going to make for last year. So all of this helps out our general fund and helps to offset some of the negative variances. The next is the Water and Sewer Fund, our second favorite fund in the whole wide world. So if you look at the very bottom of the page is fund balances there. So this is the crazy thing about governmental accounting and our fund balances. So you look there, our Water and Sewer Fund has $27.4 million. Our Stormwater Fund is $5.8 million. We are loaded. Those fund balance numbers are worthless. They are absolutely worthless because they contain all of the infrastructure, all of the capital assets that we have. So these two funds in particular, it's all about the cash. And so that's why I have the cash highlighted up above. The Stormwater Fund, again, that's that fixed charge that everybody loves and hates around here. You know, that's the biggest fixed charge of, you know, $600-ish or whatever the average amount is. We have zero cash at June 30, 2023. So again, we're keeping that fee as low as we can. It's just to cover our cost, and again, that's a result of the lawsuit having to break out stormwater versus the Water and Sewer Fund. On the water and sewer side, that's the other one, the $7.7 million. Again, we got $7.7 million in the Water and Sewer Fund. Well, guess what? A mile of water line replacement's $1.5 million to $2 million. So that doesn't buy us a whole heck of a lot. We've improved. We have just under $5 million in 2021. So our plan has been we need to get this reserve back up into a reasonable amount. That's still way low as far as an overall amount of cash reserves, but we're heading in the right direction and while still doing as many projects as we can. So the Parks and Rec Fund, I touched on that just a minute ago. So this is with the results of the Parks and Rec Master Plan, this is the money we've been trying to set aside as much as we can to fund the specific projects as well as the hub. This was all before the millage that had just passed. So we had just under $500,000 a year ago. We ended last year at almost $1.6 million. So again, this is money coming from the general fund set aside specifically for those Parks and Rec projects. We have budgeted this year to have another $700,000 to $1 million in that fund by the end of this fiscal year, which is 5 months away. So that would bring our cumulative number to about $2.5 to $2.75 million set aside for that. So that's the big chunk of money that we have to go with our grant revenues to fund the hub projects, and that's what this is for. So great news. We're really, you know, to me, these are exciting projects that we have here. And again, to be able to set this kind of money aside is outstanding. So doing a great job. Couldn't leave without touching on our street funds. So as much as we think we get a lot of money from them, so the two amounts you have highlighted there, the $2.1 million or $2.3 million and the $1 million, that's all the money in the world we get from the state of Michigan. That's our share of the gas and weight taxes. So we get about $3.4 million a year. And again, to pave a road, it's $1 million to $1.5 million a mile. This doesn't get us a whole heck of a lot. And remember, this also includes, this money has to be used for our snow plowing, our pothole patching, signs, all of those kind of operating expenses as well. So we use every time, even though if you look at the bottom there, it shows that we have fund balance. That's really just a matter of timing because if you think about the road construction season, that is May, June through September, October, November, whenever the frost comes in. So we started projects in May, and those are going on through all summer. And again, this is as of June 30th. So all of the fund balance is committed. We do not have that money set aside. And as we point out in each of our budget years, every single dime in our road funds we program to spend on our roads. So doing our best, but there's just not a whole heck of a lot. And of course, just wanted to highlight.
Just a question.
Certainly.
In the year 2000, we were getting $5 million a year from the state, and now it's $3.5 million, right?
Yeah, again, I'm not sure what it was back then, but yes, this is what we're getting as of right now, yes. Yep. Yeah, that revenue hasn't gone up, for sure, so. The next two slides are just highlighting that we continue to invest in our infrastructure here. Even though we don't, we're not flushing money in their street funds and our general funds not kicking money in, et cetera. we continue to invest those two numbers right there. So we spent over $4 million on roads, sidewalks, equipment, all of those general operating ones. So this is non-water and sewer related money. So we continue to invest in capital, in infrastructure, et cetera. Again, that's a big number for a community this size. And the next one is our water and sewer fund. And the water and sewer fund, it's almost $5 million a year that we continue to invest in our infrastructure. And oh, by the way, we need to double or triple that if you ask the people behind me here, because, and drive our roads, so we are doing as much as we can, but again, there's still just, we have the pot of money we have, and we're doing the best we can, and that's why we have to prioritize. So, but all in all, again, continue to invest heavily in our capital, which is great. On the debt side, again, good news, we continue to pay down our debt. We don't have a lot of debt here. We have our three main debt projects. Two of them were roads, and one was to fund the building that we're in right now. So we paid off about $1.7 million of that last year, dropping our outstanding debt for those three to just under $16 million. And then we have the long-term lease for the library and the recreation building next door. That's that other one there for it's just under $1.5 million. So we continue to pay down our debt. Those debts, the first one will expire in 2028. The first road bond will be paid off there. In addition, on the water and sewer side, the only debt we have is the Coon Drain debt. And you can see there I have that orange highlighted. Our outstanding debt's about $1.3 million. We're slated to pay off $860,000 of that during this current fiscal year. So that is dropping off quickly, which again will ultimately help our residents reduce that storm sewer charge, assuming we don't get any more assessments on the Coon Drain. But as of right now, as we sit here today, that will be a help and will ultimately help us reduce those rates. Because again, we're just trying to pass along the cost, and this is one of the costs in that fund as well. So good news there. We like good news. The next three slides are our pension systems. So just touching on them real quick. So the first box you see there is the liability related to our pensioners. So those are who have retired, who can retire. So you can see there 4 years ago, our liability was $42 million. It's just under $40 million right now. The next box down there is the amount of money we have set aside for it. So you can see there was $18.3 million in 2020, and we're about $18.4 million now. So not making a whole lot of headway there. And then the net, that's called our net unfunded liability, that bottom piece right there. You can see our funding level. This is the general employees pension system. So if you remember these grants the state gave out for underfunded pensions, so if you were under 60%, they gave you money. So we received about $1.8 million this last September. The unfortunate part about it is they looked at it was 2021 when they did the assessment, and we were at 55.4% funded. Look where we're at now, we're at 46% funded. So while that 1.8 will help, it's unfortunate that they didn't look at it a year later, and we would have an extra $1 million or $2 million on top of what we had. So again, 46, the state ideally wants that at 60% or more. So we have to continue to file our annual plan on how we're going to get it to 60%. And you can see in the next, I'll show you our contributions. That's in a couple slides here. So we continue to pay what the actuary tells us, but we're not gaining much ground in that system. Go ahead.
Carl, I want to ask you to just go back to, you talked about the $1.5 million lease and for the library, and just wanted you to explain that so that council members understood what that was for, because that's for the debt service for the bonds that the county issued on our behalf using their AAA rating.
That's correct, yes. So they issued debt in their name to help the city out. So we got it cheaper as a result of that. And actually, they refinanced it about 2 years ago to get even more cheaper? Yes, good accounting language. But it reduced our annual debt service cost. So yes, it's really like we issued the debt, but they helped us out by issuing the debt on our behalf. So we have a contractual obligation with them to pay the debt service that's in their name. So that's why it's in our long-term debt session as a liability of ours. So good point. That's unusual. That's
I have one more question to ask you. The GASB change, and maybe this is a better question for Bremen Robson, but the GASB change that led to us having to put our assets and liabilities in with the rest of our financial statements. Is there any effort to unwind that, or is that gonna stand forevermore? Because it's super confusing for our taxpayers, obviously.
Yeah,
And it
so the-
skews where we actually are, and to your
Yeah,
point.
So on the governmental side, that is only in the government-wide statement, so it doesn't affect us fund-wise. But it really does skew things in the water and sewer fund. Again, that's another component of that crazy fund balance number that we have there. So while it's required to be included in there, it is not funded. We do not fund that in the water and sewer funds. But yes, it's there, and there's actually a push to put even more of those types of things in the future, like they're making us put leases in now, and then there's compensated absences changes coming in more and more. So they're trying to clutter it up more and more to match the corporate world, which we're not the corporate world, but it's.
So nobody can
unfortunately, it's
understand what it's actually telling you.
Yeah,
basically.
and like I say, I'll have, Rima can touch on the new pronouncements that are coming. There's more of those requirements that won't do anything but clutter up our financial statements a little more. And of course, none of them help us. It's always, it's always detrimental to have these.
So when and I think the important point with that is that when we, council members, every year in the budget process, which we're about to enter into, when we are establishing the rates for water and sewer, we are having to unwind those assets and liabilities from the financials in order to determine what cash on hand we actually need.
That's correct. I call it a cash basis budget. So those types of things are not included in our budget document, only the ones that we have to fund. And that's what ultimately gets passed by the mayor and council. All right. Public safety, again, just touching on those two things. So the ultimate liability is about $88.4 million right now. We have $51 million set aside. So again, $37 million yet to be funded. And again, this is another one of those examples. So we're 57% funded now. If we were 57% funded in 2021, we would have got millions from the state. But if you look at 2021, we were at 68% funded. So we got nothing from that related to that. So we're just under the 60%. But again, we're contributing exactly what the actuaries tell us to. And we're funding it as we're supposed to. It's just the results of the investments. Especially 2022 was a down year for the market, so that's why the funding level dropped there. But it's been a decent year this year and last year. So here's our contributions related to those. So this is our general employee system there. So it's just worth highlighting. So over the past 10 years, you can see that the first box is in 2014, we were contributing about 1.2 million. We're contributing about 1.6, so that one isn't too bad. If you look at public safety underneath it, we were contributing about 2.1. Now we're contributing a little over $3 million. So a 33% or more increase in our contribution, and you just saw our funding levels have not gone up. They've actually dropped over the past few years. So the bad part about that is those contributions will continue to go up in the short term until our funding level increases. So, but every single year we're paying exactly what we're supposed to, and hopefully with some favorable investment returns in the coming years, will rebound some. But otherwise, that's what ultimately happens to our contribution. Lastly,
To no fault of our own, I might
yeah,
add.
exactly. Yes, exactly.
We've done
You
the
know,
right thing all
COVID was in the
along.
middle
Yes.
of all that, and everything else. So yes. Lastly is our OPEB. Again, the state. This is another example, Eric, of the state mandating that we start doing stuff. So they start mandating that we start funding OPEB, which is other post-employee benefits, i.e. retiree health care. So that's probably been 5, 6, 7 years now. So we have put some money aside for this. We're required to get to 40% in the next 30 years. But again, it's a big number here. You can see, so just for our general employee system, we need to set aside $22.4 million. We have $3 million set aside right now. But again, it was zero not too long ago. So we're doing our best, but pensions are our first priority. And then once that gets up there and that gets funded, then it'll be OPEB after that. We've made a conscious decision to fund those in that order. So while we are putting some money aside, we would need 22 million more just for the general employee system.
And let me just interject on that
I
part
know
of it
this
too.
is your favorite.
It is,
One of your
and
favorite.
I just want to piggyback on something Carl just said, but that we even have, 11% OPEB funded in the general system, I believe, and
Yep.
12.35% in the public safety system, and I think even in the court retiree healthcare system, there's just under 3%. So I know those numbers aren't huge, but it's something I'm very proud of, because those are things that were zero just a few years ago that we've worked very hard to overcome. And it's a long road ahead, but when you look at the, yeah, exactly, so.
Exactly. Yep, and again, it was, oh, by the way, you're gonna start funding these things. You know, they don't ask, they just say, by the way, you will start funding those, and we'll give you 30 years to do it, but you must start setting some money aside. So again, that's just another unfunded mandate that they say you will start setting money aside for it, and that's what we're doing. And as Eric touched on, so this is the general employees. We have 3 million set aside, 11.5% funded. This is public safety. Again, the liability is 27 million, so we just said general employees was 22 million, so we're up to $50 million that they want us to set aside. We have 3.9 million there, 12.35%. And then the court, which is being paid out of the court fund, has about 100,000, and their liability is $3.4 million. So again, it's out there. It will not go away. That is the retiree health care that is out there, but we will continue to fund it as we can, and really the priority is the pension first. So.
Okay, Carl, one last point. I just want to go back to the court OPEB liability. So remember that this was negative not too long ago, and the general fund had to make up whatever the contribution was.
Right.
So the fact that we're in positive territory says a lot about where we've gone with that.
Yep. So I know I'm only 1 hour over my time limit, so, but I would answer any questions you might have before I turn it over to Daniel with Riemann.
I did have one question.
Certainly.
So how many retirees' health care are we covering?
Oh, I don't have that number off the top of my head. Let me look real fast. You know, there's 182 pages in here, and it says it somewhere.
It's 75, page 75.
Page 75, see? Look at that, magic. So it looks like 168 in the general side and 173 on the public safety side. So 350-ish retirees, because that money would be set aside. So, and the liability is somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 million for the retiree health care for those individuals. Big numbers. I can keep talking if you guys like. That's right.
Any
Well,
other
thank you very
questions?
much. Let me turn it over to Daniel Clark with Riemann to talk about his opinion and their comments and recommendations.
Well, good evening, Mayor, council members, city manager. Mr. Johnson took all the fun out of this, so I'm going to speak very briefly, so thank you for the presentation there. My name is Daniel Clark. I am the signing principal on your engagement. Again, this year, pleasure working with you all. So we do issue an opinion on those financial statements that he just talked about, and we're happy to state, again, this year we issued a clean, unmodified opinion, so that's exactly what you would be looking for. That's exactly what the city has received ever since that I can remember. You also issue your financial statement, which we call the ACFR to the GFOA, the government board in Chicago, and you get that reviewed, and each year you have received the certificate of excellence on that as well. So that has also been submitted, and that takes a several month process, so hopefully you'll be receiving that again this year. We're also asked to communicate any new accounting pronouncements. This year there was one related to GASB 96, which is Government Accounting Standards Board number 96, related to subscription-based internet technology arrangements. Those were assessed here at the city. None were material enough to book. So although that was a big standard and a lot of work that went into that, there was nothing that needed to be added this year to the statements. Last year, if you remember, we were talking about GASB 87 related to leases. I think that was mentioned earlier. So that again was implemented in fiscal year 22. Obviously, the effects of that are still going on, and those leases are recorded in your financial statements. We're also asked to assess accounting estimates. Those things are such as depreciation expense, allowance on uncollectible accounts, those inputs related to calculating compensated absences. You obviously have pension plans, OPEB plans. We assess all of those estimates and deem those all to be reasonable this year. Happy to state we encountered no difficulties while performing the audit, so the finance team was fantastic. We have a wonderful working relationship with them. All questions we asked were answered properly, and documentation was provided timely. which speaks to the fact that it was submitted by the December 31st deadline to Treasury. Also happy to state that the information provided to us required no material adjustments, so we had no material audit adjustments as part of the process. There were no even past adjustments that were necessary. So the records that were given to us were clean, it's maintained properly, and they do a really nice job keeping up during the year. So when we do come in and audit, it's a very clean process. And then furthermore, that speaks to the fact that we had no material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or other matters noted for you today. I think the only thing that we did note, and it was considered a verbal comment that we communicated with the finance director, was related to your fidelity bond. You have one at certain limits. We do review those periodically and just determine whether the limits are high enough. We just noted that that might be something that you look at, maybe increasing those limits. Obviously, it's completely at the decision of the city, but again, I would just state that we did note that as a verbal comment. Part of this year also, we had to do a test over your federal program related to the state and local fiscal recovery fund. So you did receive a lot of ARPA money, and I believe you spent the rest of it in fiscal year 23, so about $950,000. So we did do a specific alternative compliance exam over those dollars, and it was a negative assurance test, meaning we were just looking to make sure that the money was spent on its intended purpose, and we found no issues there. So a report was also issued related to just that specific program related to those federal dollars. Outside of that, upcoming accounting pronouncements, as Mr. Johnson mentioned, there are two that are pending right now, GASB 100 and GASB 101. GASB 101 is the only one at this point that we feel like will have any material effect related to how you're calculating compensated absences. So there could be some changes in how the calculation is done. What we've been seeing, and probably what will occur, is that your compensated absences balance will actually go up rather than down. So it takes into account different factors and such. So that's not implemented until fiscal year 25. So you have a year to work on that between now and June 30th of 2025, when that will be implemented. Other than that, I had no other things to report tonight, unless you had questions regarding our reports that we issued.
Any questions for Mr. Park? Thank you so much.
All right,
We enjoy working with you.
take care.
Next is item 8, foreclosure prevention. Say it again? 7B. Got it. Oh, my favorite. Thank you. Oakland County is doing wonderful things for Shepherd Park, and here comes some good news.
All right, good evening.
Can you introduce yourselves?
All right, I'm Donna Follen, I'm the Chief of Planning at Oakland County Parks.
And I'm Eric Coppin, I'm the Chief of Park Operations for the South District for Oakland County Parks.
And we're really happy to be here tonight. It's great to come and give this update. We have really enjoyed working with your staff as we've developed this project, and looking forward to just continuing for the long term to work together on this. So Oak Park Woods at Shepherd Park.
Lovely name.
Good to hear that. This is our part of our Healthy Communities Park and Outdoor Recreation Investment Plan. Let's see, I'll just scroll down there. And so in 2022, we were allocated ARPA funds by the Board of Commissioners for the Healthy Communities Investment Plan. And a lot of that money was designated for investment in community parks. And that's why we're here in Oak Park. In 2023, you approved the interlocal partnership agreement. And as part of that, we will invest a minimum of $1.5 million we're looking at improvements to trails, pavilions and restrooms, and a new accessible nature playground. And so we've identified, and you can see the red outline. Oh, actually, I can read it easier if I look up there. Look with the red outline, that is the northern 17 acres of David Shepherd Park, and that is the park that we agreed to identify as Oak Park Woods. You will continue the day-to-day operations. We will make capital investments in major maintenance and just be your partner moving forward. And then we've also, out of that Healthy Communities Plan, a $500,000 grant to the city to help fund construction of the farmers market. We did public engagement. We did surveys and open houses. And I remember the weather simply was not our friend all the way through. We kept trying to have events and we kept getting stormed out. But we had 180 participants and people identified all the things that we loved, the park, the paths and walking trails. Restrooms were very important to everybody. The woods, the pollinators, you know, nature areas and native plants. They liked those quiet areas and also places to gather for entertainment, fun playground stuff, all the things we love. That's what they wanted to see. So here's where we are right now. In December, we kicked off design processed with Way Trim. In January, they did their site analysis, identified some priority infrastructure repairs like with pavement and ADA accessibility compliance. At July 1st, 2024, per the operating agreement, our part of the operation will commence, which is those investments in the park and continuing the design process and that major maintenance and that continuing partnership. So we are expecting in this summer to have a design open house in your community, and we're talking to you folks about what's a great date for that, when maybe there's an event already going on, to show the public the sorts of designs that are coming together. We expect in fall we'll have a final design, an overall master plan. It's going to be look at some phasing. The first phase is probably going to be focused on the pavilions and play areas and looking at those infrastructure improvements. And then we'll continue to seek funding to continue the rest of the way through the master plan.
Infrastructure meaning paths?
Yeah, we're looking at improvements to the pavement, the asphalt pathways, and then ADA compliance of one of the sidewalks needs to be a little bit wider, and ADA compliance with the pavilion, and I think especially the kitchen in there.
Oh.
So we want to make sure we hit all those things as we're looking at our improvements. So
you're improving the kitchen?
and yeah, if you have any questions.
This is all good news. Oakland County is doing this for us and not charging us for the maintenance and the improvements. This is Christmas in February. Yes, City Manager.
Donna and Eric, I just want to thank you so much for working with us. You guys have been great to work with as well. So obviously, this is monumental stuff for us, and we absolutely appreciate Oakland County contributing to this huge Parks and Recreation investment that we're making in our community already. One of the things, though, that I wanted to point out was that the bathrooms that we've allocated funding for, and I don't see Dave back there maybe, but, and that's Shelter 2, there he is. It's his favorite topic, by the way. But the bathrooms that we've allocated funding for around Shelter 2, our timeline for that will not be the same as the timeline Oakland County has established. We plan on doing that this spring, I think, give or take. Okay.
And I believe there are discussions with the design team as to how to
To try to
integrate
match
that.
the aesthetics, yeah,
Mhm.
okay. So I just wanted to point that out.
I think we'll also be looking at how all of this links into your big hub project.
And you continue to maintain this area after it's, so they're putting it in and maintaining it at no cost to us, which frees up some money that we were using for maintaining, maybe for other projects that we can do. So this is a lovely gift from Oakland County.
Just one, Madam Mayor. So part of the agreement calls for, actually, on an ongoing basis, the city will continue to maintain and provide public safety services. But there is a stipend, an annual stipend in the operating agreement, I think it's 50,000, that the county has graciously agreed to, where they will reimburse us for some of those services that we're already providing. So we see that as a real great thing too.
You'll also collect revenue, you'll manage the pavilions and collect that revenue.
So outside of the capital investment and the ongoing stipend, nothing will really change from how we're doing it now. Except we'll have upgraded facilities and amenities.
Lower cost. Thank you so very much. Any questions?
Just quickly for the trail renovation, are we just talking about the paved pathways? You're not going to do anything with the woods themselves, right?
Well, our natural resources department will work on managing, we have a forestry section, and we'll work on managing those woods and improving them. Diversity of the trees and the plant life.
Nice.
And just to increase the enjoyment of it and their function as a natural area.
Now, I couldn't see the schematic, but the accessible nature playground, where is that going to be in relation to the current play structure?
Well, we're so early in the design process. I mean, we were thinking of the Pavilion 1 area, but I just don't know where that's going to land as far as the design process.
And then City Manager Chungate.
I just wanted to, I hope it's okay if I say this, but I think we're sort of targeting the existing play structure area, some of the flooring, some of the, what is that?
Play equipment?
No, the play equipment's outdated, but
Yeah.
the surface, what is that new surface area?
rubber surface.
There you go. So some of that has ripped up in years past. So that's the area that we're targeting. I wanted to mention one more thing though, which is the train is not moving. Let me
Train is outside
say it
the
again, the
boundary.
train is not moving. The train is not leaving the station in this case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Beloved
one other-
amenity that generations have played on.
Just
That's
one,
right.
one other point, Madam
Yes.
Mayor. And so if you want to rent one of the shelters, we don't have to go through Oakland County or anything like that, correct? Just-
Correct.
just
Yep,
keep
it
that
would
clear
be
for the
just like it
residents.
is now, right.
Thank you.
Let's see, foreclosure prevention from Oakland County Treasurer, and we have a letter from Robert Wittenberg, our current Oakland County Treasurer. The heart of it is, they don't want to foreclose, they want to make arrangements with you so that you can stay in your house, and they slowly get their taxes. They are bending over backwards to keep people in their homes. Oakland County Treasurer's Office is in the final stretch of our foreclosure prevention efforts. The tax foreclosure deadline for the 2021 or prior year taxes is April 1st, 2024. If these aren't paid by April 1st, or any interested party hasn't entered into a repayment schedule with the Treasurer's Office, the property will be foreclosed. They are trying to prevent this. Since December of 2023, the Treasurer's Office has conducted 1,000 taxpayer assistance meetings to help taxpayers keep their properties by working with them to get on a repayment schedule or identifying resources that may be beneficial to them in their situation. We are here to help and strongly encourage taxpayers to contact us before the tax foreclosure deadline if you have delinquent taxes for 2021 or prior tax years. Taxpayers interested in scheduling a taxpayer assistance meeting can call us at 248-858-0611 or may visit www.oakgov.com/treasure. Some of the resources available, do this before the actual foreclosure. Sometimes when times are hard, you kind of like want to ignore it. Don't ignore it, they will help you. Financial Empowerment Center gives you one-on-one financial coaching and services to help you achieve your long-time financial goals. Contact Rita at 807-5287. Lakeshore Legal Aid provides free legal services to people who are low income and seniors. That's Lakeshore Legal Aid, 888-783-8190. We're here to help. We encourage you to contact the treasurer's office. If you have delinquent taxes, don't ignore it. They will help you. Again, call 248-858-0611. Thank you. Next, we need a motion for payment of invoices submitted by Garen Luco Miller PC for legal services in the total amount of $18,051.33.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. If there's no discussion, roll call, please.
Councilmember Redford,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes,
Councilmember Whitehead.
Yes.
and I believe we have city attorney portion, item 10. Our city attorney, Ebony Duff, is here to explain.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. You have before you a proposed resolution to approve an request for an extension of a Metro Act permit. This permit was initially issued to Fiber Technologies Networks, which is now known as Crown Castle Fiber. The permit was first issued back in 2014 and then first extended January 7 of 2019. They have submitted an updated route map. The installation is primarily through aerial paths along existing DTE poles. There's no changes to any of the infrastructure. They have, we are going to request a current insurance certificate, which will meet the statutory requirements in our city ordinance. As all the paperwork is appropriate and in accordance with the statute, I recommend that you do grant the extension. And if this resolution is passed, grant the city manager authority to issue the permit.
Okay, we need a resolution to approve this request from Crown Castle for the right-of-way permit. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, discussion or questions? No? Do we need a roll call? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. City Manager Eric Tungate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. I would like to call up the Deputy City Manager of Community Services, Crystal Van Vleck, for 11A1.
Good evening. So, Mayor, I'm glad that you said you liked the name.
Yes.
The county said, or.
I thought it was
county
going to
gave
say Oakland
earlier.
County something, something. So they just, really honored us, which
Yeah,
was
so
lovely.
in our discussions with the county, obviously, the piece that they're going to be operating, they want to identify in some way, so it's part of their park system as well, even though it stays under our ownership. So in our conversations, we talked about Oak Park Woods at Shepherd Park. So we're coming in front of you tonight to ask for your approval. There's a lot of other things in the summary that Donna already gave you, so I won't repeat. But obviously, it's an incredible partnership opportunity for us with the county. But we did want to make sure that you guys agreed, that City Council agreed with the naming of their part of the park. The park is still Shepherd Park, so I just want to make sure that's clear. The park as a whole will still be Shepherd Park. This is just a way of identifying the area that the county will be maintaining for us.
And will they have a sign of some sort?
There will be some signage.
We
Yep.
will identify who will agree, work with you,
Yep.
make sure the signage is agreed.
Yes, part of our agreements that we have with them talk about how we will work together as far as signage goes, so that it is still in line with everything that we have in the park, so it identifies their area properly, but also fits in with what we already have.
Let's see, so first we need a motion to approve Oak Park Woods at Shepherd Park as the name of Oakland County's section of our park. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We have a name and It's lovely. It's just lovely that, it's nice to have good news, and it's nice to partner. And I think previously, the majority of the money in Oakland County went north of the 59 Expressway, even though the majority of people live here. So the equity in this is just heartwarming. Thank you.
Okay, 11A2, I have a guest here, Eric McLaughlin from Dickinson Wright is here, but council members, I am asking for your approval for the contract with Dickinson Wright for professional services for bond counsel. So this is the bond counsel that was selected as part of our review. We received 4 bids, and Dickinson Wright was the victor. And they will be assisting us in issuing bonds for the construction of our new community center.
Okay, so let's get the motion first. Approval of the contract with Dickinson Rice for professional services for bond counsel. We need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. We need a second. Right. And then we have questions. So I will let you present first, and then we will follow up with questions.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council, members of the city administration. Thanks for having me here. My name is Eric McLaughlin. I'm a partner with Dickinson Wright, a member of its public finance group. Been involved in for about 15 years. My firm has served Michigan cities much longer than that, serving cities with their finance needs. My role as bond counsel will be to advise the city with respect to the legal authorization documentation of all of its financing transactions to finance the infrastructure to move the city forward and improve that infrastructure that makes the city so great. In that role, I prepare the documentation. At the end of the transaction, I deliver an opinion that says the bonds that you are selling and delivering to the bondholders are the legal and valid binding obligations of the city in accordance with their terms, and that if we are issuing tax-exempt bonds, that the interest paid is exempt from income tax for federal and state income tax purposes. So that's kind of summary of what my role is as bond counsel. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
City Council, are we?
Do we get regular updates? How does this work?
Absolutely. During the course of the transaction, I work with the city administration most closely and then get regular updates as to the status of the transaction.
And this is to fund the new building.
Absolutely.
Madam Mayor, just.
That is correct. So this is a first step now in getting bonds issued for the construction of our new community center. So we will also, and I was hoping, Eric, you could speak a little bit to us probably needing to hire a financial advisor to work alongside a bond counsel to then advise us along the way. And of course, they'll work directly with the administration. And we've done this in the past for other bond refinancing projects. You may remember, council members.
That's correct. Specifically with regard to the community center project, since the electors have already approved the issuance of the bonds for the project, the formal step that the city council will take will be to adopt a bond resolution at the time that it's appropriate to authorize issuance and sale of the bonds. That's somewhat down the road once the project has been designed and we've got the proper size for the bond issue. We'll come back to you with a bond resolution that says we authorize the issuance of the bonds up to a certain amount of bonds with a maximum interest rate to be sold for no longer than 20, 25 years, and any other parameters that are provided to us by the city's registered municipal financial advisor. That role would be the financial aspect of the transaction. I serve the legal role with respect to state and federal law. The financial advisor, by law, provides you with the advice regarding the timing, terms, and structure of the debt. And works very closely with the finance department to make sure that the debt service payments fit in with your budget each year going forward. And yes, you will receive regular updates through that process from both the municipal advisor and myself by way of the city administration.
And council members, just to add to that, so my intent is to have that entity through professional services contract arrangement on your agenda very soon. We're talking to some now. One thing, just shifting gears a little bit, I wanted you to speak a little bit to them about the reimbursement resolution that will be required as part of this, which I'm thinking we'll see at the next meeting, perhaps.
Yes, sir. What the federal tax code allows the city to do is adopt a reimbursement resolution at the beginning of the process. If you're not quite ready to approve the issuance of the bonds, you can adopt what's called a reimbursement resolution, which qualifies any prior expenditures made prior to the issuance of the bonds for reimbursement once the bonds get issued. So you know you're going to have a project, you know you're going to be spending money, you know you're not going to authorize and issue bonds until much later. You can adopt a reimbursement resolution, and any of those prior expenditures can qualify for reimbursement from future bond proceeds. There is a time limit that applies to it, but we can work through that with city administration. But the key point is that you can adopt a reimbursement resolution and qualify those later bond proceeds for application to prior bond expenditures for the project.
And so a lot of the pre-construction costs, you know, the pre-development, the planning, the engineering, architectural, all of these various things, and those are, for a project of this size, are going to be quite large. So rather than have the general fund ante up and have to pay those, this will allow us, well, pay those, I guess, still, but this will allow us to reimburse the general fund when the bonds are issued for those costs.
That's
And
correct.
do we, is there some, like, wiggle room about the rate? We wait for the rate to go down, or interest rate?
That's a good question, Madam Mayor. That's precisely the specific advice regarding the rates is precisely the type of advice that the registered municipal financial advisor can provide you. They've under the law, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, separated that function from the lawyers and the financial advisors. So it's completely separate. They're the ones that have the pulse on the financial aspects of the market on a daily basis and are the proper party to advise you with respect to that. But that is correct. When you do work with the municipal advisor, part of their scope of services is to provide you through the city administration with several scenarios that show different debt scenarios for a particular project, particular financing, and they are generated using various rate assumptions, so they can show you what happens at various interest rate levels for the various scenarios. And that's part of the advice that they provide.
Madam Mayor, just a
Yes.
point. Being in the legal community, I know Dickinson Wright is a preeminent firm, so another great job by city manager in picking one of the top in the industry, so full confidence and trust in their firm.
It was just his first name that I was attached to. I can't help it there. Sorry.
Yeah, good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's see, so we have the motion, correct? And I would like a roll call, please. Thank you.
Councilmember Whitehead.
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar.
Yes.
Mayor McCollum.
Yes, motion carried.
Okay. 11B1, I'm still getting used to this new agenda format, Mr. City Clerk, is a facade grant approval for 25651 Coolidge, and we have our Director of Municipal Services, Kimberly Maroney, here to explain.
Thank you, City Manager Tungate. Good evening, Mayor and council members. In front of you is an application for facade grant at 25651 Coolidge for the Cajal Rena Utafila. They would like to replace all the windows in the front door on the front facade of the building. They will meet the energy efficiency requirements and improve the look of the building overall. We have asked them to make sure that the blinds that they have in place do stay open when not in operation to meet our fenestration zoning ordinance, and they have agreed to that. Although the cost is well over the 50% match of $2,500, we do recommend giving them the full amount with the approval of the City Council.
That will be, so first, we need a motion to approve the facade grant.
So moved.
Thank you. And then, having new windows on this place will be a big, the audience can't see what it looks like, but the windows are in iffy condition, and it will be, it'll upgrade the building.
Yes, absolutely.
Any questions about the facade grant?
This is one of my favorite programs, Madam Mayor. I think I mentioned it when I first applied for the city council, because this is one of the great programs to help make our city look better.
Amen. That's it, yes. If they look new and fresh, people want to come and shop.
Yes.
And so we are moving on up at Oak Park.
Well, this is Civic, right?
It is, yes. Yep, and all the funds come from the Corridor Improvement Authority.
Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Edgar,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner, or Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
and Councilmember Whitehead.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Maroney. 11B2, we have our city engineer, Kara Grissomer, here to explain.
Good evening. In December of 2021, the city applied for and was granted fiscal year 2025 funds from the Federal Aid Committee to complete a rehab project on 9 Mile Road from Greenfield to Cloverlawn Avenue. The awarded funds from the Federal Aid Committee are $695,031.48, with the city paying for the balance of the project, which is now estimated to be at $1,325,000 with our major street funds. We
So let me
solicited
just,
and received your
the
proposal.
federal
from-
government is giving 695,000
Yes,
and change, and we are putting in 1
around
million.
640,000 at the current cost estimate, but that is subject to change with this design phase. So OHM submitted a proposal to us to be able to complete the design phase this year, to have it ready for, awarded for construction in 2025. They've previously worked in this area in 2008, so they have a lot of the information that's required for the project already. They submitted this hourly not to exceed proposal for $95,000 to complete the engineering design phases. And funding is available in the Major Streets Fund. We
Can you-
recommend that you approve the proposal from OHM to provide professional design services.
First, let's get the motion. Do we have the motion in a second? No.
Second.
Okay. What is going to happen to 9 Mile?
It's going to be another mill and overlay project, so they're gonna mill up the existing asphalt that is not in the greatest condition, and then they are going to replace the overlay. We do not have bike lanes planned on the street at this time. That could possibly be subject to change, but right now, we're just planning a very simple mill and overlay project.
Eventually, we will be extending bike lanes down.
That is the hope, but we will have to see what comes in the coming years.
Right. We're waiting for grants and,
Yes, we're always looking for grant money, from SEMCOG and other organizations.
right, okay. Are we ready to vote?
I just have
Yes, question.
So what kind of design services is OHM going to provide? This is just resurfacing, right?
Yes, but because the Federal Aid Committee has distributed the money, everything has to go through MDOT, and there are a lot of complications when it comes to doing paperwork for MDOT. OHM are experts at filling in all the complicated forms that our engineering department just does not have the firsthand knowledge the way that they do.
Well, anything further? No. Roll call, please.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead,
Yes.
It seemed like
Councilmember Edgar.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Everything is always more expensive than you expect.
Okay, thank you, City Engineer Grissomer, and we have 11C1, which is a request to change payment processors for credit and debit card payments, hoping this is good news for our residents. We have our Deputy Director of Finance, Josh Johnson, here to explain.
Thank you, City Manager Tungate. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Nice seeing all of you. We are requesting to change our payment processor for our credit and debit card payments, as the city's current payment processor, which is ACI, is no longer compatible with BSNA, which is what we use daily. We conducted a research for other third-party vendors, and we came across two companies that we liked, which was Invoice Cloud and Point and Pay. And Point and Play had the lowest cost and to the users of the city and for us, in which there are no monthly fees and no setup fees compared to Invoice Cloud. So Point and Pay had the better fees for us compared to Invoice Cloud. So we're recommending to authorize the finance director to terminate his contract with ACI Payments and enter into agreement with Point and Pay upon approval of the city attorney looking it over. Anybody has any questions about anything?
Yes, City Manager Tungate.
So, Josh, I was just hoping you could speak to, one of the things that I see as a real benefit to our residents is just the ACH charges, because there will not
Yes.
be any
Correct.
ACH charges for our residents. And currently, I think it was 50 cents a transaction, if I'm not mistaken, but,
That's correct, yep.
so that's a huge plus. So if people want to pay online, ACH with their bank account,
Mhm.
no charge to
Nope,
pay their
no
bills
charges.
online.
Correct.
And what about using credit or debit card? What would the charge be?
Point and Pay says no chargeback
Yeah,
fee,
Point
but.
and Pay had no charges.
Weren't we paying like $250 or something?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
So instead of paying them a fee to pay by credit card, there's no fee?
Yep.
That's what it says.
How did you find that?
Just our research, Mayor. Yeah.
How do they make any money?
Other fees that are in the way. We got a whole list of, different fees, property tax, utility billing, code enforcement, and stuff like that. So if you want any other details, I can give it to you.
Can I just add in too? I know years ago, Mayor, and this is what I think you're referring to, years ago when we chose ACI, there were really only so many firms out there doing this. So it was either we take them or one like them that charges those fees, or we just don't have that available to our residents. Times have changed. There's definitely a different marketplace out there for this now. So, and again, I just think Point and Pay is so much more compatible with, if I'm a resident of a city too, I want to pay my taxes online with no charges, credit card or ACH. I mean, that's a real benefit. And hopefully encourages more people to do that.
I know people were annoyed with the charge.
Right. And for that reason, a lot of people wouldn't pay online. And now there's nothing prohibiting them from doing that.
And we're going to do a lot of PR about this, right?
Yes.
And when will this go into effect?
When it's approved.
And it's approved, yeah.
Okay.
Tonight.
It's up to us. This is authorizing the finance director to terminate its contract with ACI Payments and enter into an agreement with Point and Pay upon approval of the contract by the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, discussion, questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Whitehead,
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar,
Yes.
Mayor McCollum.
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
A lot of people will be pleased, I think, with that one.
Okay.
City clerk.
Yes, and we are on to item 11D1, a 2024 presidential primary update. Mr. City Clerk Ed Norris.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I just want to give you an update. Just a reminder that next Tuesday, right, a week from Tuesday, this Tuesday will be the presidential primary. Polls will be open from 7 to 8 p.m. as usual. Just a reminder that this presidential primary in Michigan is a closed primary, which means that you will have to choose whether you want a Republican or a Democratic ballot. It's something that's a little different that happens every 4 years. I'd also like to
remind you that we have early voting going on. That's new in Michigan. It started on this last Saturday. And in our community, early voting is at the community center. Just a reminder that that's from 8:30 to 4:30 every day. This is the 9 days before the elections. And that will conclude on Sunday the 25th. And those hours again, from 8:30 to 4:30, except for this Thursday, which is actually from 12 to 8. And then, of course, we have absentee voting going on, so that can be done through the mail, through this Friday. Of course, you come into the office and vote in person there as well. So that's it.
So if I want to vote early, I can come to the community center between 8:30 and 4:30 every day, including Saturday or Sunday?
That is correct. And then on Thursday, it's from noon till 8 p.m.
So if you can't come during the day, the one day that you should come is Thursday, because they're open late. Okay, that's,
Okay, Madam Mayor, members of council, I think I misspoke just a moment ago regarding point and pay. I actually do think it is a 3% charge. I think I misread that. I couldn't see the 3.
Yeah, there's no ACH fees.
There's no ACH fees. I just wanted to correct that. I misspoke. There is still a credit card charge of 3%, which matches the one we have now. 3% fee of the transaction.
oh,
But no ACH fee.
oh, okay. So it's better to pay through your bank, automatic pay through your bank?
Yes, definitely. And there are other benefits too. There is no chargeback fee for credit or debit. Just wanted to correct that. Okay. The Elevate Oak Park update, 11E. I don't have a huge update for you, council members. I do want to ask our Deputy City Manager of Community Services, Crystal Van Vleck, to join me at the podium, though. I have an unfortunate update about one piece of this that I wanted to make sure you were aware of. You've heard, obviously, we're moving forward with bond counsel, and we're going to have a financial advisor on hand soon, but we've been sort of waiting on this grant for the event hub. So Crystal, give them the,
Sad news.
most of the time we have good news, but
Yeah.
not always, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, this time I have bad news. So we had been waiting for some time to hear for a grant that we applied for through the Labor of Economic Opportunity, and it was for a community center grant. Apparently, they received thousands of applications when they were anticipating hundreds, and so we did not receive. We applied for 2.5 million, which would have been a wonderful chunk of change for that project. But all is not lost. We are still applying for grants, including some pretty large ones, and so more to come. Yeah.
Wonderful. We have won an incredible number, thanks to our staff. It's amazing to me. First that they're out there, and then we are able to win such a large percentage of the ones we apply for.
Yes,
Thank you for your efforts.
To look and apply.
Well, and it goes without saying, just to the mayor's point, the staff has done a tremendous job. Crystal, you too, especially you, Kim, Lori. I'm forgetting many people there, but not intentional. But you know, if there are funds out there to get, we are going after them.
Nice.
And I think one of the grants we're going to be going after is a Humana grant. If I'm not, am I not supposed to? Okay.
Yes, Lori, I won't give out too much information just yet, but Lori and her team have done a wonderful job building a relationship with Humana, which has been very supportive for us in the farmers market over the years. They've been very generous, and a lot of that has to do with the rapport that Lori and her team have built up with them. And we applied for a pretty large amount of money in support of the event hub just recently through them, and so we're waiting to find out. But all of that credit goes to Lori and her team. So more to come. Hopefully good news on that front soon.
Yeah, nice.
So what do we have now toward the event hub?
we have 5.75 million allocated, and that includes grant funding and then also money that actually Carl alluded to earlier in our Parks and Recreation Fund. And as Eric said, we are bringing on a designer right now, and so we will have updated estimates coming in the future. So as of right now, we're working on estimates that were provided quite some time ago, which we, on purpose, I think we received some pretty large estimates because we want to make sure that we budget appropriately. So more to come. We are working on finding more funding and then also clarifying and solidifying the costs of the event hub.
Which will be able to much better pinpoint, to Crystal's point, because we have the architectural and engineering firm on board now, Newman Smith, and we'll know a lot more about what those actual costs are going to be as opposed to just an estimate, which is what we were using before. It remains our hope, and I know where you're going with this, council member. I know what you're thinking. I'm reading your mind. It remains our hope to not spend any additional dollars outside of what we can raise. And I just want to say this again. If someone had told me a few years ago, this is my 12th year here, if someone had told me a few years ago that we would grant fund and raise $5.75 million for a project, I would have said you were crazy. So I think that speaks volumes to the effort that's been put into this on behalf of our taxpayers.
Nice. Now, we had hoped to get more, so do we have to like scale down what we're hoping to do?
We won't know that until we get the real-time estimates of what the actual pricing is gonna look like. Because again, we were just operating on a proposed idea of what the costs were gonna look like.
And we're still waiting for more grants that we're applying for.
Correct.
Okay. Good luck.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. Okay, I am gonna move to 11F, which is the agenda item that was added, council members. So this is a letter of agreement, and I'm gonna explain all three of them to you. They're all the same pretty much, except for one, which is the Command Officers Association of Michigan. So the objective here was to eliminate the wage reopener, and I'm so sorry, I have HR Director Carla Allen here with me here as well. But the objective was to eliminate the wage reopener language that was already in the negotiated contracts to occur on July 1st of 2025. And so in exchange for the elimination of that language, and that was primarily because, and it was for if inflation was over 2%. Inflation is about 3.1% right now. So, which is a far cry from where it was. It was 8.6% 2 years ago. So we feel that in exchange for that, it's to the city's benefit to allow for a 1% raise to the command officers on March 1st. And an already existing, when this has already been negotiated, the 2% raise on July 1st. And then a 0% raise on July 1st of 2025 with no wage reopener language included. And that's for the command officers. The other two, the POAM Dispatchers Union and the TPOAM Union, are both the same in the sense that we would offer the same 1% on March 1st to them. But the difference here would be they're currently slated in their contract to get a 1.5% raise on July 1st. We would kick that up to 2% from 1.5. And again, that would be in exchange for removing the wage reopener language on July 1st of 2025, which I think puts us in a pretty good position, a couple years out to reevaluate sort of where we are. Do you want to add anything to that? Did I steal by your?
Just that all of the unions have agreed, they have no problem with this, so we think it's a great position to put the city in for now and in the future.
Thank you for your work.
And it puts, I just want to add one more thing too, it puts all of our bargaining units on the same trajectory in the form of wage increases. So no one has a different wage increase than the other units. So, and I think, as you know, my philosophy has always been to, that eliminates the disparity and it creates a sense of fairness, and it is, it levels the playing field for everybody, and our employees appreciate that, so.
It definitely helps morale.
Yes. 12 years ago, morale was down, and now it is a whole different story. I am so proud of what's been accomplished in this time.
So, council members, each one of these three will need a separate vote, but they're all in front of you, and I'd be happy to answer. Carla and I would both be happy to answer any questions you may have additional.
This is what's in front of us. So command officers first, POAM second, and TPOAM third. So you want, do you want the motion of the language of the motion?
I think you just do motion to approve can we just do motion to approve the letter of agreement?
Okay,
Yeah.
so all we need is motion to approve the letter of agreement for the Command Officers Association first.
So moved.
Second. Do we need a roll call for this?
Councilmember Whitehead?
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar?
Yes.
Mayor McClellan?
Yeah. Yes.
So the next one's POA.
So motion carried. The next one is to approve the letter of agreement between the City of Oak Park and POAM. Is there a motion?
Dispatch.
Dispatch?
POAM dispatchers.
POAM dispatchers, thank you.
So moved.
Second.
If there's no discussion, roll call vote.
Councilmember Edgar?
Yes.
Mayor McClellan?
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead?
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. The third one is to approve letter of agreement between the City of Oak Park and Technical, Professional, and Office Workers Association of Michigan, TPOAM.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. No discussion, please, roll call?
Mayor McClellan?
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead?
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar?
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, that completes the city manager report for this evening. Thank you.
That's amazing work. Call to the audience. Please, do we have any cards? Yes, we do. The clerk will call. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and we're delighted to hear from you.
Ken Sherman would like to speak?
Good evening. Good evening, and happy President's Day. Sorry, my voice is kind of non-existent tonight. I was going to add to the absentee ballot, the third option is uncommitted. Besides Republican or Democratic, you have a choice of checking off uncommitted on your ballot.
Except just to interrupt there, we don't have a proposal in the City of Oak Park. So you can choose that, but we don't have that.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
The reason I'm up here is I was designated by the Recycling Commission to talk to the City Council about our lack of a representative from the City Council attending our meetings. I've been a member of the Recycling Commission since September of 2022, and I have not seen any representative from the City Council attending any meetings. I know I've spoken to City Council before. I've spoken to the individual who's designated to attend, and yet nothing has happened. So I've been asked to come to you again to bring this to your attention and to ask either City Clerk, the City Manager, or the City Council as a whole to address this and rectify this before our next meeting, which is Thursday, March 21st at 7 p.m. Thank you.
City Clerk, do we have another
Yes, I do. PG?
Good evening to the mayor, to the council, to the city staff, and all of the people that are in the auditorium. I just wanted to say that every day is Black History Month, but we are observed for the entire month of February. If you get an opportunity, go and see the biopic of Bob Marley's story, One Love. It is absolutely amazing. Against Paramount's confidence, the movie opened up #1, making $27.7 million opening weekend.
Give us the name of the movie again.
Bob Marley, One Love.
One Love.
Yeah. And the last time I was there, in one of your study sessions, I made a commitment to Councilman Sean Whitehead as well as to the city to give a donation for Juneteenth. So this is the first of maybe 2 to 3 donations that I would like to give. So am I able to approach the council?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We take money from anybody.
Oh, the city manager, thank you. So I'll give another few more.
Thank you so much.
And I just wanted to say that I'm glad that Oak Park is continuing their role, being a community, to invest in celebrating Juneteenth, a holiday that has been around for a long time, that people are really starting to pay attention to and to get to know.
And to
So
celebrate.
thank you so much, and I'll have the last of my 12 windows installed starting tomorrow, so after Wednesday, you can get another donation or 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nope, that's it. Anybody decide at the last minute they have something to say? No. I am delighted that you, what's that? I'm delighted that you all came. It is just a pleasure to have everyone here, listening and participating. I drove down to 9 Mile to the new park that is like wheelchair accessible, and there are places to sit and talk or sit and eat. There's lighting. There's like a spinning thing that the kids always love to do. There's something you can grab onto, and a zip line, thank you. If that's in there, that looks like a lot of fun. There's things for little kids to do. It was nice to see, and there's still landscaping coming. So that was a pleasure. Stop in and see how far we've gotten with the 9 Mile Park. Glad you came. Councilmember Julie Edgar.
Thank you, everybody, for coming, and I wanted to give a shout out to PG for your generosity. You're not even a resident of Oak Park, and yet you're supporting this very important activity, so thank you.
But I'm a friend of Oak Park.
Please just move in. Okay.
Councilmember Sean Whitehead.
Yes, I want to.
Despite having sick kids at home, he is here. We thank him.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank Councilwoman Egger for connecting me with PG, and thank you for your generosity to Juneteenth. It's going to be the best Juneteenth we've had out of the past 4 years. A lot of people come up to me and thank me for my service to the community and what I'm able to do to help. But I couldn't do that without my wife, and Mayor touched on it a little bit. So I just want to thank my wife at home, who's taking care of our 2 sick boys. It was Valentine's Day, and she's my forever Valentine, so I just want to thank her. So.
These are people who haven't slept in 9 months, so we more than appreciate their service. There being no further business to come before this council, this meeting is adjourned.